All right, good morning and happy race day. Let's talk the Xfinity Series picks for Kansas. Um, Looking at the top range here, we got Gregson, Allgaier, Gibbs, Allmendinger, and Barry. You're going to see pretty high on a lot of these guys, except for Allmendinger. I think there's a couple different ways you can go. I think Gregson, and Gibbs are probably going to carry the most ownership out of this range. Gibbs has a really good chance of being that early lap leader. He starts on the front row, right next to Brandon Jones. I think a lot of people are going to assume that Ty Gibbs is going to be that early lap leader. He's going to get the early jump on Jones, or if he doesn't get the early jump on Jones, he's most likely going to pass Jones within the first handful of laps. Gibbs looks to have a really good short run car. However, Jones did have the fastest 10 lap average in practice. So should be pretty close between those two. But, head to head, if you have Brandon Jones versus Ty Gibbs, get a lean with Ty Gibbs there. I know they're in a little bit of a different price range from one another. And then you kind of have the JRM cars up there. So you got Gregson, Allgaier, and Barry. Gregson's probably going to carry the most ownership. His practice times look the best out of the JRM cars. He is the most expensive. He is coming off a win. He has a lot of momentum. This is a track that he runs well at. Um, just a lot of upside there, but you are paying, top dollar to get Gregson in your line. I think Allgaier might come in a little bit under owned today, just based off of his practice times. Not really too concerned about those practice times. I think this team will figure it out. I would assume and imagine that Allgaier is probably going to be a little bit more of a factor in this race for stage 2 and stage 3. So I like Allgaier's maybe a potential pivot. Same with Barry. I think Barry, I might even bump him down to medium. Barry's probably my outside of Allmendinger, probably my least favorite interest in this range. I still like him a lot for GPPs. I just think you get a lot more upside with a Gregson, Allgaier, or Gibbs in your line. But I think Barry might be a little bit underowned, like Allgaier is for that reason, with a lot of people chasing Gibbs and Gregson. Getting to the 9K range, I really like Ross Chastain today. The reason I like him is I like his starting position. I like that he's starting 15th. He gives you some place differential upside. He's most likely not going to be a lap leader, although he could turn into a lap leader if this race gets a little crazy. Um, Gives you some place differential upside. Um, he's a Cup Series, driver with a lot of talent. So the only fear is he might overdrive the car and get into the wall or spin or try to make it an aggressive pass on a restart or something, get into a little bit of trouble. But I really like his upside today, starting 15th. Austin Hill, unfortunately, is just someone I'm not really getting to. It's hard for me to justify him starting 6th as being a place differential play or a lap leader. I just think the drivers priced around him carry a lot more upside. Brandon Jones is interesting. I think if you are fading Ty Gibbs or trying to get a little bit different, maybe you plug in Brandon Jones as that early lap leader. He does have the ability to control the restart. And like I said earlier in the video, he did have the fastest 10 lap average of practice time. So maybe if it's a longer green flag run, maybe he's able to keep that clean air and stay in front of Gibbs. And I think he's going to be way under owned compared to Gibbs. So if you're looking for a pivot, a contrarian play to get different right off the bat, I think you got to go with Brandon Jones. The only fear is if you are playing Brandon Jones, he might lead stage 1, but then most likely he's probably going to lose the lead at some point in this race. So how high can you see him finishing once the checkered flag waves? Can you see him finishing 5th? If so, that's most likely going to work. However, if he drops back to like 9th, 10th, 12th, something like that, if he doesn't lead a ton of laps, that's really going to hurt you starting on the pole. Now, Sam Mayer is going to be a guy I'm really interested in. He did finish 3rd at Texas and Charlotte earlier this year, which are 2 tracks that we are using for comparison when we are looking at Kansas today. He's really cheap compared to his JRM teammates. He starts 8th, so he gives you a little bit of place differential upside. Really like him for GPPs and tournaments today. Not going to get to Daniel Hemrick, just starting 7th. I don't really feel like he has too much upside there. I think it's really the JRM cars and the JGR cars. So Sammy Smith is another JGR Toyota. Probably another GPP option starting 11th, gives you a little bit of place differential upside, just doesn't really have the experience or the track record to feel confident that he's going to be running inside the top 5 all day. However, we know this car is fast. We know this team's good on pit road. So there's a lot of factors in his favor. It's just, can you see him outrunning, Gregson, Allgaier, Gibbs, Barry, Chastain, Jones, Mayer? Like, when you start, uh, listing off some of these drivers, it's hard for me to say Sammy Smith is going to be ranked above them, but still think he's a medium interest for me. Creed's going to be a little bit more of a contrarian lap leader for whatever reason. If Brandon Jones and Ty Gibbs get into each other, if one of them or both of them have issues, well, who's really in kind of the catbird seat there to take advantage of it? Again, it's going to be Sheldon Creed. Creed always seems to qualify, within the top 3 to 5. He's usually priced around this range. We did see him get out front, lead some laps at Darlington, almost win that race on a just crazy last lap, something I haven't seen in a long, long time. So only going to get to him if you're building multiple lines in tournaments. Maybe if you're doing a 20 max, or especially if you're doing 150 max, make sure you get some Sheldon Creed in there. But otherwise, if you're just doing a one lineup, maybe a 3 max entry today, I don't really think Creed should be your focus. Castle's just going to be hard to get to. The Colleague cars outside of AJ just haven't really been able to get inside that top 5. That's going to be my fear with Castle. Herbst is going to be medium interest. I think if he has a clean race, I think he can finish 8th. I think if things get chaotic at the end, if drivers get into one another, I think he could potentially finish a little bit higher. It's just, I don't really see his upside really higher than 8th. I'd rather sacrifice an 8K rate driver and try to get another 9K driver in my lineup and, drop down lower on the slate. C, I'm not going to get to for a lot of the same reasons. He doesn't carry the same equipment or upside as some of the other 8K drivers do. Brendan Brown's in the R Motorsports R2 car today, so let's keep that in mind. He's been jumping around from ride to ride. Starts 20th. I think he has a little bit of upside there. I wish he started a little bit further back, but I don't mind him as a potential pivot off of the ownership and chalk that the Derek Griffith play is going to be. If you're playing cash games, you almost have to just slam Derek into your lines. But if you're trying to get different in tournaments, if Derek's a driver that you want to fade, I don't mind going to Brown, Alfredo, or Burton. Burton did have the best practice times of those 3 drivers that I just listed there. Not really going to get to Clements or Moffitt, but I still like Derek a lot for tournaments too. So he's going to be the priority in this range. But if you are looking to get different, say Derek underperforms or gets into trouble, he's going to carry high ownership. What's an easy way to get some leverage on the field? Well, let's fade him and potentially, pivot to Brown, Alfredo, or Burton. Getting down to the 6K range, you got Raja back in the car, the 45 car. We know this equipment is good. He starts 27th, which gives you a little bit of safety. The only fear with Raja, we've seen it time and time again, he just seems to spin out a lot during these races. He seems to get into issues, get into the wall, bump into another car, have a fender, cut down a tire. Something always happens to him in this race. So that's our fear with Raja. I'm probably going to come in a little under the field ownership wise. But it's hard to ignore the upside if he is able to have a clean race with the equipment that he has. If you aren't playing Raja, I think a decent pivot is just Josh Williams there. He starts relatively right next to him. His equipment nearly, isn't as good, but Josh Williams should be excited to get back in his DGR 36 machine. And then from there, I'm not really getting the Gailey, Parsons, Gase, or Massey. Massey, I should say. I don't really love the upside there. Vargas is interesting. He completely totaled his car in qualifying. However, he was still able to make the main event. They are going to a backup car. This backup car is probably not going to have the same speed that his primary car had. However, since Vargas did wreck this car in qualifying, he's basically, probably under very strict orders to keep that car clean. Make sure you just get it across the finish line. We don't really care what position you finish in. So I think his pace is going to be relatively slow. I think he's going to be kind of a back marker today. So in order for Vargas to work, you need a lot of wrecks, you need a lot of chaos for him to take advantage and kind of turn into a pure attrition play where, hey, at the end of the day, he's finishing 24th, 25th, 26th, starting 38th, that'll work to give you that much place differential. However, he's going to carry a lot of ownership when people just see that 38 starting spot next to him. So again, if you're trying to find another pivot point, another leverage opportunity, look no further than the punt range here. I think you can make an easy pivot to Bailey Curry. Curry has much higher upside than Vargas, but he does carry a little bit more risk starting 23rd. I could easily see Curry finishing 16th to 18th if things go his way. Chris Wright, it's the same story every week. Has the equipment, has the starting spot, looks like a good play on paper, and always finds a way to wreck out of the race. Eventually, he will have a clean race, and that's the time you want him in your line. But how many times you to keep going back to the same guy and having you burn you over and over again? So, uh, you know, maybe sprinkle in a couple ownerships of Chris right there, but not really a major priority for us. CJ McLaughlin might carry some ownership in that 38 car. Just don't really love his practice times. I'd much rather go to Vargas, Curry, Wright, or even Smithley in this range. Sounds like Matt Mills is out with the flu, so Garrett Smithley is a little bit more of a veteran driver and should just keep this car clean and just get to the finish line. Kind of a similar play to Vargas, more of a pure attrition play. He just starts 5 spots higher than Vargas, but he does come in at a little bit of a discount. And then for there, I don't really think I'm going to get to anyone else. If you're looking to get really aggressive, Howie DeSavino is also in the same equipment that Raja Karuth is in. But look at the price difference there. I mean, Raja's $6,800, Howie's $4,900. They start relatively close to one another, so I'm going to probably bump Howie up to medium here. Howie just carries a little bit of risk. Usually when we get down to the punt range, it's more or less just plug in some place differential drivers who can't really hurt your lines that, hopefully they can just squeak it through and get away with a top 25 finish. If you're playing Howie, your hope is that he can finish a lot higher than his starting position, get a top 15, top 18 type of finish day. So that'll do it for our Xfinity Series picks. Hopefully that has been helpful. If it has, liking the video is always appreciated. Hitting the subscribe button to get us up to 1,000 subscribers is our ultimate goal. So we appreciate all the support there. We'll post this spreadsheet on Twitter. It's at FastCarsFM. And we'll have a Cup Series picks video out once qualifying, I should say, is done for that series. But best of luck today, and we'll catch you on the next one.